I've been walking for a while. I've been walking for a while. Walking for a while, mile after mile, getting to the promised land. Well, I'm walking in the desert. I've been walking in the desert. Walking in the desert, my feet are getting burned, trying to find a promised land. We've been walking for a while. We've been walking for a while. Walking for a while, mile after mile, getting to the promised land. I see the morning light. See the morning light. It's not because I'm an early riser, I didn't go to sleep last night. I've been walking for a while. I've been walking for a while. Walking for a while, mile after mile, getting to the promised land. Well, I'm feeling so free. I'm feeling so free. Feeling so free, having crossed the sea on the way to the promised land. We've been walking for a while. We've been walking for a while. Walking for a while, mile after mile, getting to the promised land. We've been walking for a while. We've been walking for a while. Walking for a while, mile after mile, getting to the promised land. We've been getting to the promised land. Getting to the promised land.
That was wonderful. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church, in-person and virtual Sunday service. My name is not Rob Craig Coleman. It is Charlene Reynolds Santo. I am a member of the worship arts team and was sick last week, and someone helped me out by filling in as well. So it's my turn to fill in as well for Rob. Today we gather in an understanding and welcoming environment where we nurture and explore individual spirituality, build a committed and loving community, and help heal our fragile world. We are an intentionally inclusive congregation, and thanks to the internet, we serve many communities north of Boston and far beyond. We welcome you no matter your age, your gender identity, sexual orientation, differing abilities, religious backgrounds, spiritual beliefs, or political perspectives. If this is your first time with us, we would like to extend a special welcome to you. If you haven't already, please look for more information about UUCR. Here you can find details about our church community, sign up for the weekly newsletter, and find the contact information for Melissa Martin, our new members coordinator, who can answer any of your questions. If you are watching this service during its initial broadcast on April 10th, please join us after the service for small group conversations via Zoom. This is a great way to keep connected and to check in on others in our church community. The link to this Zoom meeting can be found in the weekly UUCR newsletter. Our Share the Plate tradition has started over 2 years ago as a spiritual practice of giving half of each Sunday's collection to a nonprofit organization that shares our UU values. We do this not because we have more than we need, but because there is so much need. And this is a simple yet powerful way for each of us to live out our mission commitment to heal the world by learning about and supporting the good works of charitable organizations and becoming more involved in our community. In honor of Earth Day, the Green Sanctuary team has selected Massachusetts Climate Action Network, MCAN, as our Share the Plate recipient for the month of April. And please see the monthly newsletter for more information. On behalf of our staff and volunteers involved in today's service, I would like to thank you for being with us this morning. We believe you belong here. You maybe just for the next hour, although we hope for longer. You belong here, and we are grateful that you have joined us today. And I would like to introduce AJ to come up and speak.
Good morning. I'm AJ Heidkamp from the Pledge Drive team, and I'm happy to report that we received another $60,000 in pledges, so our total is now $330,000. So we're 85% of the way to our goal. You can feel the energy level rising here at UUCR as we start to move forward again. The governing board has found a way to fast-track the process for selecting our next minister, and their proposal was unanimously accepted at last week's congregational meeting. It will also enable us to move forward towards our other goals at the same time. But one of the key ingredients to actually making it all happen is to have a successful pledge drive. So if you haven't had a chance to submit your pledge yet, please don't wait any longer. The Finance Council is anxiously awaiting the pledge drive results so they can finalize next year's budget. If you're someone who always likes to wait to the last minute to submit your pledge, your time has come. This is officially the last minute. You can find all of our pledge drive information on the church's website. Click on the donate button on the top right of the homepage and then select Annual Pledge Drive. It's quick and easy, and I promise you'll feel great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, AJ. And I want to say that I am often one of those last-minute people. Don't do that. And there's an easy solution, as AJ's telling you, so we need you, everybody. Well, I'm Deborah Weiner, your Transitional Ministry Associate. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I want to share opening words with you, which come from Mickey Scott B. Jones. This piece is called An Invitation to Brave Space. And I hope you take it as an invitation to you to delve into worship with us today. Together, we will create brave space because there is no such thing as safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars and we have all caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and more love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side. I invite Sally now to join in lighting the chalice and in our children's affirmation. In the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek. We are Unitarian Universalists, the Church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands. Friends, please join now in singing Go Down Moses, number 104 in your gray hymn book. This is a song of liberation. I invite you to rise in body or spirit.
When Israel was in Egypt's land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. The Lord told Moses what to do. Let my people go. To lead the tribe of Israel through. Let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. For you the cloud shall clear the way. Let my people go. A fire by night, a shade by day. Let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. We need not always weep and moan. Let my people go. And where these slavery chains forlorn, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sally Lieberman, and my pronouns are she and her. This is the time in our service when we welcome forward our children for Time for All Ages and anyone else who would like to come up front and sit on the floor or in the first pews. Our children will be staying after for lighting of silent candles, and we'll hear Josh and Jared and Trevor one more time. Before we leave, you'll see Astrid and I at the side door when it's time to go downstairs. And today we are welcoming Deb to Time for All Ages. And I am so glad you are here, Deb. And you can teach us about the Jewish holiday called Passover that starts this Friday night.
It does.
So Deb, you know, and some of you may know, that my last name is Lieberman. And sometimes my name is recognized as a Jewish name, though I am not a Jewish person, nor did I marry into a Jewish family. And when my children were little, I received a call from the school at wintertime, and I was asked to come into the classroom and teach children how to play the game dreidel. So I looked up how to play the game dreidel, and I got the pieces and the parts after I found a place to buy them, and I went into the classroom, and luckily, when I went into the classroom and sat down at the table to teach children how to play dreidel, I was met with children who knew how to play dreidel because they played it in their own homes. And so we are learning about Passover today. I am not a Jewish person, and it is, in fact, a Jewish ritual and tradition, and I am glad that you can teach us from your stories what you know about Passover.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here to join with you. So you know that song that we just sang, Let My People Go, So that tells the story of how the Jews were enslaved in Egypt by the Pharaoh. And they wanted freedom, which I bet you can all understand, and so that they could live in a space where they would be treated fairly. And Pharaoh, who was the guy in charge, was not very interested in letting the Jews go. And so there were a series of bad things that proceeded to happen to the people of Egypt. Now, here's the thing. Some people think that those bad things were arranged by God, and some think that it was the cycles of nature that made all that stuff happen. But the last thing that was supposedly sent by God was that the children of the Egyptians who had treated the Jews so badly would die. And the story goes on that the Jews escaped the same fate by painting a sign on their doors so that God would know to spare them. And then the Jews were finally allowed to leave Egypt and to travel eventually to what became known as the Promised Land. Yeah.
That's what I had always understood about Passover, was that there was a passing over of some kind of evil or darkness.
Right. And so we celebrate this time with the festival of Passover and with the ceremonial items that we're going to talk about right now. It's a ceremonial feast.
And this is called the Seder?
It is called the Seder. I'm going to show you.
Beautiful,
This is my Seder plate. So you see this plate? You see? Yeah, that's it.
It has all those beautiful
So
symbols.
everything on this plate is marked, which is very cool. And I want to know, how many of you have ever been to a Seder? Yay. All right, I like that. That's great.
So Deb asked me to get some items for the Seder plate, and we have them over here, and I will hand them to you as you
Great.
ask for them.
Yeah, that's great. So we have a lot of different items, and I'm going to tell you what they all mean. Okay, so the first one is the roasted lamb shank. Now, I roasted this myself, my very self, last night. I'm going to take it out. Look at this. Look at that. It's a bone in it, and there is a place on the Seder plate that says bone, and that's where it's going. So the roasted lamb shank is on the plate because it was the blood of the lamb that marked the doors of the Jews, protecting them from bad things happening. Some of you can maybe smell that. Can you smell that? Yeah, a little bit. It's kind of a strong smell, isn't it? But I happen to like lamb, so there you are. Okay, next we have an egg. Now, this is a roasted egg, and this egg is here because what are eggs a sign of? Anybody know in, like, ancient lore what they are a sign of? It's fertility, right? That's what it's about, is fertility, and really it connects us to the ancient, to the pagan recognition of the egg being the root of life. So this is here really to symbolize the root of life. Okay, and there's a spot for an egg, and it goes right there. Okay, then we have something very exciting. We have haroset. How many people have ever tasted haroset? So good. And the kids are going to get to taste it later. So this is it. Oh, my goodness.
It's really good.
This is so good. I want to eat all this, but I'm going to leave it for you. It is made up traditionally of chopped apples and walnuts with sweet wine. And here we have used apples and raisins, which is often used in Sephardic Passover traditions. So and it has grape juice. We're not feeding the kids wine. I just want you all to know that. That has a special place on our plate. So you're going to be able to taste that later, which is very cool. The haroset is here to remind us of the mortar and the bricks that were used by the Jews when Pharaoh enslaved them. Okay, now we have this big old horseradish root. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is a horseradish root. How many of you have ever had horseradish? Do you narf on this? No, you do not. We have a spot here for a horseradish root. Why is this here? It is here to remind us of the suffering of the Jews under Pharaoh. This is called the bitter herb, okay? One of the bitter herbs. All right, then we have matzah. Who's had matzah before? Everybody, I hope. Yay, except the babies. They don't get it yet. So, that's right. So, y'all are going to be able to, you kids are going to be able to taste matzah. This is it. It is going on our plate. And the matzah has an important role in Passover because it is called the bread of affliction. And the reason that it is so flat is because the Jews had to escape Egypt very quickly, and they did not even have time to let their bread rise. So that's why we have this flat bread called matzah. Now, next we have parsley. The parsley is called karpas, and it is here to remind us of the back-breaking work that the Jews had to perform when they were enslaved. And traditionally, we have a bowl of salt water, which we don't have here, but we would be dipping our parsley in the salt water and then eating it for everybody who is enslaved. So those are the elements that are on. Did I forget anything? I don't think so.
No, I forgot
think
the
I've
salt
got
water.
it. So these are the elements that are on the Seder plate.
Deb, thank you for telling us all about these ingredients and how they make your ritual important and what they mean to you
Thank you.
in your celebration of Passover with a Seder dinner. It sounds like this has been a big part of your life.
It has. Yeah.
Do you have any favorite memories?
I do have one. How of all of you who've been to the Seder before, how many people have hunted for the afikomen? Anybody know? I see some hands. Do you know about that? So the afikomen is really, it's called dessert in the Seder. And what happens during the Seder is that there is a piece of matzah that is hidden by the person who is leading the Seder, and it is hidden for the children, traditionally, to hunt for it. And then the person who finds it gets some kind of a prize. And I still have a silver dollar that was given to me when I was the lucky person who found the afikomen. So Passover is a great celebration. It is really my favorite holiday. There's great food, too. We haven't even talked about matzo ball soup, for heaven's sakes. And I am looking forward to it, and I hope maybe this will help you to get excited about it so that maybe you will celebrate it someday, too. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your stories from your history and all that is meaningful to you. Let's get back to our seats. In a moment, we'll be lighting silent candles, and we'll be hearing more music, and we'll be leaving for RE in just a little bit.
So, friends, as we do each week, we light candles to kindle the many sparks of connection that we share with other members and friends of this congregation, with those in our communities, and with those throughout the world. As we have done for these last weeks, we light first 2 candles, a blue and a yellow one, for the people of Ukraine who continue to fight for their freedom and an end to relentless bloodshed. And we light this candle in celebration of the reality that more than 2 centuries after the U.S. Supreme Court was gathered, a Black woman will sit on that bench in the fall. Yeah, it's worth clapping for. Let us celebrate all of our connections, one to another, extending from this space out into the world. And now, friends, please join in bringing your joys, your sadness, your celebrations, and even your losses as we gather to light these silent candles that witness our time together. Please come forward.
Today's reading was written by Martin Luther King Jr. in his speech on April 3rd, 1968. I do not know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it doesn't matter to me now because I've been to the mountaintop. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. And I'm happy tonight. I am not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Lechilach, to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechilach, on your journey I will bless you. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing, Lechilach. Lechilach, and I will make your name great. Lech lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lechilach, on your journey I will bless you. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing, Lechilach. Lechilach, to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechilach, on your journey I will bless you. Lechilach, blessing. Lechilachayim, Lechilachayim, Lechilach. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing, Lechilach.
Thank you so much, Josh and Jared, and also Trevor. And appreciation to our tech team up there. Thank you, Al and Robin. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you, Sally, and Astrid, and Melissa. When my father was a young boy growing up poor in the town of Newburgh, New York, his sister Frida became engaged to marry Arnold, a shopkeeper. The Weiner family was very excited, and even though they had little money, they decided to have a party in their tenement on Colden Street. My father, Oscar, was about 12, maybe a little younger, and he was given the assignment to go out and get a jar of mustard for the cold cut spread. His father gave him $1. Oscar went to the grocer where he saw gallon jars of Goulden's mustard in the window, and they cost $1. He told the grocer that he wanted one, handed him the money, and carried it back to the flat. And when he walked in, everyone started carping at him. "You dummy, what did you do, spending Pa's money like that? We needed a little jar of mustard, not that big thing. Take it back." Oscar felt embarrassed and sad, having spent his father's hard-earned money. He was about to go back to the store when his father, Isidore, said, "Did you pay for the mustard?" Yes, Oscar said he had, at which point his father declared to everyone gathered, "He paid for it, we keep it." A declaration had been made. Ever since, the family joke became giving Oscar jars of mustard. And sure enough, that has now extended to me, a continuing behavioral legacy from my father. But the point should not escape us. You make a deal, you stick with it. Even if you decide the deal isn't the best, it's the deal that you made, and as an honorable person, you hold to it. That's not a bad thing to teach our children, it seems to me, that our word should be good for something, and that if we say we will do something, we follow through. And if we can't, we tell someone that we need to revisit the promise that we made and figure out together what comes next. Which brings me to talking about wandering in the desert and the account in the Bible of Moses, as well as the promises that we make to one another. Now, the key story of Passover, as you heard in our Time for All Ages, is that of the plagues which God sent down upon the homes of the Egyptians while the Jews were held captive in that land. Pharaoh had enslaved the Jews, but they continued to multiply, leading Pharaoh to order the death of the newborn males. The midwives who would not carry out this decree saved Moses, who grew up to become the leader of the enslaved people. He sought to liberate them from bondage, and it is during that time that God's decree to let my people go is received. Pharaoh refuses, however, and the suffering of the Jews only increases. In return, it is said that God smites the Egyptians. Don't you love that word, smite? With 10 plagues. And these show up in the Passover story big time. Water turning to blood, frogs, lice, flies, livestock pestilence, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and finally, death of the firstborn. Oy vey, what a set of disasters. Now, the story tells us that the Israelites had marked their doors with the blood of the sacrificial lamb, and they were spared from the death of their children. And at that point, Pharaoh had had enough. The Israelites were going to get out of Egypt finally with their unleavened bread, their matzah, and little more than they could carry on their backs. As they reached the Red Sea, Pharaoh tried to force their return. He did not want to keep his promises, and Moses parts the Red Sea then to allow the Jews to escape. Just when victory seemed at hand, the Jews crossed into Sinai, and it is there in the desert that they spent 40 years wandering. And it was during that time that God is said to have appeared to Moses at the site of the burning bush God tells Moses to view the land of Canaan, which he will bestow on the Jews. But God also tells him, because you broke faith among the Israelites at the waters of Meribah Kadesh, although you view the land from a distance, you shall not enter it, the land that I am giving to the Israelites. That's the price paid for breaking a covenant. Talk about being slapped for breaking a promise. This quote also illustrates the parallel between the story of the Exodus to the Promised Land in ancient times and the Promised Land that Martin Luther King was trying to inspire his followers to 55 years ago, which you heard in Charlene's reading earlier in this service. Now, I want to put this history, into the context of Unitarian Universalism. Our polity, the way that UU congregations are governed and function, has been passed down from the Cambridge Platform, affirmed in 1648. It is the document that guided Protestant faiths, including ours. And among other things, the platform decreed the following promises among churches: caring for each other's welfare, consulting on any topic or cause where another church has more familiarity or information on the topic, admonishing another church that has caused offense, allowing members of one church to fully participate in another church, sending letters of recommendation when a member goes to a new church, and offering financial support for poor churches. Now, that helped to provide a framework for what might happen in an individual congregation. Fast forward now into the 20th century and to this congregation. Did you know that this church had a covenant before the one that currently hangs on the wall out there near the water bubbler in the atrium? And on October 27th, 1991, your minister, the Reverend Jane Jepka, preached about it. She said, "These days, we don't make a big deal about our covenant. In fact, that's an understatement. I would be surprised if any of you who have signed a membership book in a Unitarian Universalist church understood yourselves to be formally committing to a covenantal relationship. But in fact, just like the Puritans, you did find a group of people, us, that runs completely under its own power and authority, and you signed up not necessarily to believe the way the person sitting next to you believes, but to walk with us as we each do our best to be good and loving people. That's our way of covenanting. That's our way of committing to the fellowship of this religious community. That's our way of walking together as one congregation." Okay, that was 30 years ago, and there's some ableist language in there. But the point is, we're talking about people joining together, as Reverend Jepka said, to do our best to be good and loving people. That seems like a pretty important goal for all of us. While it is true that historically covenants were designed to limit membership, because back in the earlier times, you had to agree to support the church's covenant fully, and if you didn't, you were declared unworthy and put out. It's also true that having a covenant, making commitments to one another that we take seriously and will keep, can be a really important part of supporting the ongoing health and vitality of a congregation, like this one. James Luther Adams, Unitarian Universalist theologian, talked about a few key elements which Jane Jepka highlighted in her sermon back then, And I want to point to those elements now as being the primary areas of focus that we should hold. The first element is about promises we make to one another, because that is at the core of what it means to share a covenant. I describe mission and covenant as two hands working together. The mission describes who we are. The covenant describes how we will be together, given who we say we are. Pretty much, you want both of these things: a mission to guide your core identity and your programs, and a covenant to identify how it is you're going to function and what promises you can make to one another. So those promises are important, identifying them and talking about them when they are broken. The second element recognizes how congregations, this one and others, function. Those of you who were in church last week may remember that I talked about the ways that the members who are part of Unitarian Universalist congregations can lose our way sometimes. We say that we are part of congregations, and the congregations are members of the larger denomination. And so we talk about the congregation as being the central body that determines what we do and where we go. And that works fine until something happens that we might not like. Then, too often, all bets are off. And sometimes we get so frustrated or hurt or annoyed with what isn't happening, the things that we think should be going on, that we decide to take matters into our own hands and just do something that we think is right, because we know we are right and we are passionate in our opinions. And this is tough. We are individuals. We value that individualism. But if we are in a congregation that has a covenant calling us into relationship, we really are being asked to commit to a way of behaving that affirms the importance of the common good. As Reverend Jepka said all those years ago, these days, it helps to belong. I am absolutely convinced that if you come to this church over a period of time and get involved as you are able, you will be loved by people in this religious community. Whatever you are like, if you covenant with us, get involved and stick with it, over time, you will be loved. I like the sound of that. There's a place for us, as Stephen Sondheim wrote, a time and place for us. And it's here in this community together. One more. Reverend Jepka suggested that the third element that is needed in covenant is that this collection of people intentionally unite to be a congregation. In UU theology, we will not risk damnation if we don't join, but we are better together. And if we are together, then we can accomplish great things. Moses had it right all those years ago. We are called as a people to be together, and we are called into relationship with each other. In 2017, after a very focused and extensive effort to reach many parts of this congregation for input, the UU Church of Reading voted to affirm a relational covenant. It came after a difficult time when divisions in the church almost pulled it apart. Sometimes those things happen again. And sometimes, in the middle of travail, we need to call ourselves back into relationship. The 2017 covenant says in part, "This covenant affirms our commitment to build and sustain healthy relationships within our congregation based on trust and goodwill. These promises will help us relate to one another with compassion, respect, and love, and deepen our sense of community." The 2017 covenant calls people together and says, "We warmly welcome all. We nurture connections with people of all ages and backgrounds. We generously share our time, talents, and resources to build our spiritual community. We communicate directly with honesty, care, and respect, and listen with attention, patience, and an open mind. We struggle with one another through our diverse spiritual journeys in times of joy and struggle. We support one another through our diverse spiritual journeys in times of joy and struggle. We embrace our differing perspectives, beliefs, and cultures. We forgive ourselves and each other when we fall short of these commitments and begin again with goodwill, presuming the best intentions." That last element is really important. We forgive ourselves and each other when we fall short and begin again with goodwill, presuming the best intentions. If we are a congregation united together yet affirming of our individual perspectives, we are united in also supporting one another when we fall short and finding ways to re-establish covenant is key. So the cycle of connection in the church through your covenant states: welcome, connect, share, communicate, support, embrace, forgive. It's a pretty good cycle to hold on to. Moses and his people were drawn together by covenant. And although there were disagreements in their journey, they held together. Even though Moses did not make the journey all the way, his people got to the promised land, the land of milk and honey. I can't guarantee you milk and honey here. However, I think I can affirm that if you commit to make this congregation's relational covenant a living document and really hold it in your hearts, we will, as Jane Jepka said all those years ago, be loved. Love is the true spirit of this church. Let it guide us now and in all the days to come as we celebrate the rebirth and renewal that comes with the spring. So may it be. And now, I invite you into the spirit of prayer and meditation as our musicians join in singing, "We Begin Again in Love." You don't need to sing with us, just sit and let it take over your spirit. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in
For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For the selfishness that set us apart and alone.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For losing sight of our unity.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
Shalom, Ashe, blessed be. Amen.
This congregation exists and thrives through the gifts of those who call this place their spiritual home. As we continue to focus on the ways in which we can combat climate change, we invite you to support the life and ministry of this congregation and the Massachusetts Climate Action Network. You may make a gift online or send your check. Please give as generously as you are willing and able. If this is your first time with us, your presence is gift in itself. Thank you.
Nachshon ben Aminadav was just one face in the crowd. He was tired and he was hungry, scared, but he was proud. He walked across the desert to escape slavery. Now he's caught between his taskmasters and the waters of the Red Sea. Pharaoh and his army were coming up from behind. The Israelites were arguing, they were of two minds. Some said we should turn around, go back to what we know. Slavery can't be half as bad as drowning. You gotta take one small step for freedom. You gotta take one small step for freedom. The other side, while they were few, said, no, this cannot be. We can't go back, we've come so far, fleeing slavery. If we stay put, I think you'll find that God will make a move, and a miracle will save us all. You just wait. You gotta take one small step for freedom. You gotta take one small step for freedom. No one noticed Nachshon over by the rippling tide. He had 1 foot in the water, his shoes by his side. He took one step then another until he could barely breathe. And just when the world went dark, the waters parted and we were free. You gotta take one small step for freedom. You gotta take one small step for freedom. You gotta take one small step for freedom. You gotta take one small step for freedom.
Good morning. I'm Melissa Martin, your Member Services and Volunteer Coordinator and the Interim Congregational Administrator. My pronouns are she and her. Before I get to the invitations for this week, I just have a couple of quick reminders for lay leaders. Your annual reports are due by April 30th, and we cannot wait to read them. All UUCR members are invited to save the date for our annual spring member meeting on Sunday, May 15th after service. And please see the newsletter for details on this week's programming that includes online offerings of our Social Crafty Fun drop-in, Conversations with Katie, Liberal Ladies, Lunchtime Chat, and our Young Adult Small Group Ministry, as well as our in-person opportunities that include our evening sanctuary right here this evening, this Wednesday evening from 5 to 7, and Coffee with Katie at Cafe Nero on Friday morning. Our special invitations for this week that you don't want to miss: the UUA is hosting their 2022 UU The Vote launch party today at 4 p.m. online. This joyful and inspiring event will include analysis of the electoral landscape for this year, information about states and ballot issues UU The Vote will be focusing on, stories from the field, and introductions to partners in the work. You can ask Mary Bindeman or Michelle Catalana for more information. If your child is being raised in our church community and you would like to include them in our next child dedication ceremony on Sunday, May 1st, we would love to hear from you. The ceremony includes affirmations of these young lives, our hopes for them, and our congregation's commitment to nurture and support the child and family. If you wish for your child to be dedicated and honored, please reach out to me or Deb before Wednesday, April 20th. Our UUCR weekend at Ferry Beach has been confirmed for June 3rd through the 5th. You can find registration information in the newsletter for this wonderful weekend away in Saco, Maine, and all are welcome. And finally, save the date. The North Shore Pride Parade is on this year for Saturday, June 25th, and we will participate. More details about marching will be shared in the weeks to come. For those who are joining us online today, we have a special message specifically for you. We might not be able to actually see you, but we know that you're here with us. Whether you're participating in the live chat on YouTube or logging into our Zoom social hour, your presence is known and felt. But we would love to also include you in our next service too. So if you're watching on YouTube right now, let us know in the live chat, and we'll be including your name in our service next Sunday. You can also send me an email if you prefer that too. Because while many are here with us in the sanctuary, we also have many attending online and participating in the many ways our congregational life is together, both seen and unseen. Every individual plays a part and is a valued part of our congregation. And if you have an idea to help us bridge the multi-platforms of ministry, please let us know. You're also invited to participate in today's Zoom social hour immediately after service. and stay for the small group ministry conversation with Deb about this month's theme of awakening. And those of you who are here in the sanctuary, you're invited to stay for conversation for our outdoor social hour. Parents can use that stairwell to meet their children downstairs at RE. New visitors are welcome to stay to meet with me for our new visitor welcome. Thank you for participating. Thank you, Josh, Trevor, and Jared for today's wonderful music. If you would like to contribute music to one of our services, please contact Mary, our music director. She would love to hear from you. Today, our closing hymn is Soon the Day Will Arrive, by Shahana, number 146 in the gray hymnal.
Soon the day will arrive when we will be together, and no longer will we live in fear. And the children will smile without wondering whether on that day thunder clouds will appear. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Some have dreamed, some have died to make a bright tomorrow, and our vision remains in our hearts. Now the torch must be passed with new hope, not in sorrow, and a promise to make a new start. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me.
Please join in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts. Friends, life is short, and we have little time to gladden the hearts of those who travel with us. So I pray you, be swift to love and hasten to be kind. Go in peace, go in love.
Ilu hotzi hotzianu, hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, hotzianu mi Mitzrayim daenu. Daenu, 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 daenu. Ilu nasa no san lanu et Shabbat no san lanu et Shabbat daenu. Daenu, 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 daenu. Oh, ilu no san lanu et a Torah, no san lanu et a Torah, daenu, oh, daenu, 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 daenu. Had God let us out of Egypt, only let us out of Egypt. Had God let us out of Egypt, that would have been enough. Whoa, die, die, no, die, die, no, die, die, no, die, no, die, no, die, no, die, die, no, die, die.